Be the Good is all about people doing good in the world while following their passions. Good for their own souls and for others. I'm Kate Chericello, and welcome to today's episode. If you are enjoying these stories, please subscribe and leave a review on Apple Podcasts. It would mean so much. You can also join our Facebook community under the group title, Be the Good with Kate Chericello. Let's spread a little more goodness in the world. A quick message from our sponsor, and then into the episode.
Welcome back to Be the Good. I am so excited today to have Jennifer DeBella here. She is the Director of Education at Roundabout Theater Company here in New York City. And I first crossed paths with Jennifer back when I was in college as an intern for the development office at Roundabout. And then Jennifer hired me over the following summer, to work with their after school, I guess it wasn't after school because it was in the summer, but we referred to it as the after school program, with high school students who are putting on a production with Roundabout. And Roundabout does so much for the community and beyond, aside from, of course, their performances on stage. So I'm thrilled you will hear from Jennifer about this today. Jennifer, thanks so much for being here.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thanks for asking me to join.
So I gave everybody a little idea who you are, but please tell me more about who you are and what you do in your own words.
Oh, sure. As you mentioned, Jen DeBella, I work in the education department at Roundabout Theater Company. I have been at Roundabout since 2005, so it's been quite some time now, going into my 16th season, I think. So it's been really a joy to be able to sort of grow up with the education department and kind of help build what exists today. I feel very lucky and fortunate to have leaders at the organization who are so deeply committed to our work in the education and community space and have really helped us both push us to be innovative, but also probably more importantly, very responsive to our partners and our constituents and all of the incredible students and early career professionals and community members that we support and serve throughout the year. I started my sort of love of theater from a very young age, loved participating in theater as a student in school. I thought maybe I'd be an actor, went to school at Wagner College and thought I was going to be a performer. And I think I figured out pretty quickly that performance wasn't for me. And so I actually studied directing and then took a class I want to say my sophomore or junior year in undergrad in education, just an elective class. And I really loved it. I had a chance to do some observation of classrooms as part of that class and thought I would love to find a way to kind of marry my two loves together. I really love working with young people. I had been a camp counselor and a camp drama director while I was in college, and I really wanted to figure out how to put those things together. And so I actually ended up getting a sort of dual certification in theater and education. And I thought I would be a theater teacher. That was the path that I was on. But when I finished undergrad in New York City, I learned very quickly that there really weren't a lot of theater teacher jobs in New York City. In fact, there are 1,800 New York City public schools throughout the 5 boroughs, and there are still only about 200 or 250 certified theater teachers teaching in the schools right now, and that's about where they were at 20 years ago as well. So unfortunately, there hasn't been a major shift, although not without lots of effort from the arts folks who work for the DOE, really trying to move that dial, and some great programs throughout the city who are certifying theater teachers to teach in the schools. There just seems to be sort of low ability to be able to move the work forward. And so when I found out that I probably couldn't get a teaching job very easily, I started looking for other ways to work in my field. And so I actually landed at Walnut Street Theater in Philadelphia and had an apprenticeship in the education department, which I did not even know that education departments existed. I didn't know that you could work in a professional theater in an education space. That was so I had a whole sort of separate education, learning about professional theater, learning about how to navigate a big institution, how to build education programs in a professional theater space. And so I did some teaching and some directing as a teaching artist after my apprenticeship, and then landed back in New York. Made my way to Roundabout, and I've been there ever since. So that's been sort of my journey of getting to where I am today. And it's been really exciting to sort of see the department shift and grow, again, and really being responsive to the young people that we have been, connected to and partnered with for so many years, and being able to kind of develop programs along with their interests and where they want to see their careers and work go.
I always find it so fascinating to hear about people's paths to where they are now. And almost every time, no matter how well I know someone I'm interviewing, or if I've never met them before, I usually have no idea about half of the pieces that led them to the place they are at. So I didn't know that you were an actor first and then going into directing and that whole story. And it is so interesting. And that's why I think too, it's so important that people don't stress so much early on that they have to be on exactly the right path to exactly what they want to plan on that day. Because even if you're doing what you love, chances are that's going to, snake around a little bit, take some different forks in the road, and look at all you've done since then.
Absolutely. I mean, I think it's it's very difficult when you're in your early 20s to know what you want your life's work to be. I mean, I think that's difficult throughout your entire career, right? Is this the right place for me? Is this where I want to be spending my time and energy? And so I think, I can't stress enough how important it is to try different things, right? And kind of see what fits, and find where your particular talents and expertise can be most useful.
Absolutely. I don't think I knew that there was an education department in theaters that was that large back when I was in school, because I went to school for arts administration, hence how I ended up at Roundabout there. But yeah, hearing of all the different facets that Roundabout had delved into, it was beyond their marketing and development and finance teams. They had this huge education department, and to see it really has grown so much. Wow. I encourage everybody to go on their website too, because you can really see a breakdown of a lot of the programs too. But Jen, tell me more about how the world has looked different for you since the start of the pandemic. I know that now you're working from home some days and in the office some days, but a little more about how that shift has worked and how you and Roundabout have worked through it.
Absolutely. And I should say too, just to kind of give a bit of a context, we have 3 core areas of our education programming. So work with students and teachers throughout the New York City public schools, working in the 5 boroughs of New York City. And that work is really focused on some arts integration. So using theater to really engage students in learning their math and science and social studies curriculum, but also a big focus on supporting students in producing the kind of theater that they want to make. So theater making and building their own sets, costumes, light, sound, really learning all of the trades that make the collaborative art form of theater happen, and helping teachers also kind of build their capacity to do that work with their students and their school communities. The second area of our work is career training, which of course you are one of our alum of. So grateful to have our alum working just all over the city, all over the country, and the world, doing incredible work. But it's really about connecting folks to careers in the theater. There is a focus on early career professionals, but also career changers. Sometimes people come and are part of our programs because they want to change careers and they want to get into the field. And this is a great way to learn about the industry. So we have 2 areas of our career training. We have a program that is about supporting young people connecting to careers backstage with in partnership with the IATSE Stagehands Union. So it's about technical theater career building. The other area is arts administration and connecting folks to jobs in the admin side of the offstage work. And then the last area of our work is audience and community partnership work. It's both the engagement programming that we're doing with audiences who are coming to the theater, and then also being really intentional about who's not coming to the theater, who doesn't think that theater is for them. How do we create relevancy and engagement around the medium of theater with communities who have been really historically marginalized from the industry over the years? And so I gave that context because I think it's important to know what we are doing and what we did during the pandemic to try to keep that work moving forward. So when we found out that things were going to be shut down for some period of time, we took not very long, probably less time than we should have to really think through how could we make some shifts. And we did make a pivot to working virtually across all of our programs. Very lucky that we had the support of the institution to keep moving things forward, that we could keep our teaching artists working in the virtual spaces and really work, again, every area continued for the most part in some capacity in the 3 program areas. So what that looked like was, virtual residencies. Students were learning from home. We had teaching artists Zooming in and co-teaching in the classroom and really trying to engage students in the virtual space, which is a very challenging thing to do. And you've probably heard about the challenges of virtual learning, probably mostly because we were all sort of unprepared for it. So we had to kind of really think creatively about how to engage students and how to kind of get them engaged in these Zoom boxes. We did a lot of creating virtual theater with students, both in our after school spaces, as you mentioned earlier, through our Roundabout Youth Ensemble. They created incredible virtual art, almost like a movie, really, where they, in such incredibly creative and brilliant and very sophisticated ways, put together a big digital theater piece during the first summer of the pandemic. In our career training space, we moved our technical theater training to the online space and continued to try to support the group of folks who we had been training for the past few years, who had actually been really working in the field as technicians and all of a sudden lost their work overnight. And so we wanted to make sure that we could support them through this very challenging time for them and for the industry. So I looked for ways to create some advanced training modules, networking opportunities, getting them to learn how to support digital theater productions, which were starting to pop up pretty quickly. And then in our community and audience engagement space, we made a real commitment to, any digital content that was going to be shared with Roundabout. We were going to create some engagement activities around that so that audiences could not just consume the digital content, but we could also create spaces for audiences to engage deeper with that content. That might look like online community conversations where people from all over the world got together and in small groups talked about a piece of theater they saw together, or recording dramaturgical theater talks that could accompany the production so that folks could delve a little deeper and learn more about the plays, the playwrights, and the shows. And there were 2 big projects that we worked on during the pandemic that we wouldn't have worked on if it weren't for the circumstances of the pandemic. One was the DOE approached Roundabout and as a lead theater partner, Carnegie Hall as a music partner, Studio in a School as a visual art partner, and the 92nd Street wide Dance Lab as a dance partner to create a virtual arts curriculum for the city schools. And so it was a very intense process, working in partnership with educators and our roster of incredible teaching artists to build remote modules of theater instruction that could be done at home, both independently for students, or teachers could use it as content for their existing theater units. And it really was an incredible big project and reached about 400,000 students last year through our great partners in the DOE. So that was a big lift for our team to put it together, and Paul Brewster McGinley from our team really led that project with an incredible group of artists and educators that put it together. But that was something we wouldn't have done, right, if the circumstance was different. And now it lives. It's content that's evergreen that's living as a public resource on our website, through the DOE on their website, and it's just a resource that continues to be used and engaged throughout the school year. The other big project we worked on was something we had been kind of in process or planning before the pandemic, but it ended up shifting quite drastically. We have, for many years now, been really trying to be intentional. Again, I think I mentioned earlier about connecting with folks who maybe have felt marginalized or have been marginalized from the industry. And one of the communities that we've really been focused on is the disability community. And working with 4 really fantastic neurodiverse theater companies in the city, just having conversations about, how can we create more welcoming spaces and spaces of belonging at Roundabout for folks with disabilities. And one of the things that just kept coming up was representation and lack of representation on the stages. And is there a place for us to showcase the incredible art that the disability community is creating every day throughout the country? And so we had hoped to do a festival of artistry by disabled artists in person on last spring, and we were able to shift that to a remote space, and we created something called, with very much in partnership with our lead partners and producers, the Reverb Theater Festival, which was really an incredible showcase of film, theater pieces, monologues, spoken word, dance pieces from artists from around the country. We had over 80 submissions of folks who submitted their work. And something that might have been a small sort of New York-based festival ended up being really incredible group of artists from around the country sharing their work and their beautiful artistry for our Roundabout community and beyond. So that was a really exciting project as well, that we were able to work together with our partners to create in a space that, we wouldn't have had probably met artists from around the country. And what a treat and a joy it was to get a chance to meet with them and to be able to create just a small platform for folks to share their beautiful art. So those were some of the changes made.
Wow. Did you sleep during any point of the pandemic?
I would say that we really, I think my big learning was that we should have paced ourselves a little bit more. I think we definitely, we really were so committed to being responsive and to keep things moving forward. And I do think we probably did more than we probably should have in terms of just staff capacity and the team really feeling stretched. So we are really trying to now, as we're going back into spaces and we're in this sort of hybrid moment, right, where some things we're going to move forward that have been in the digital space and some things are going in things that we missed being in person and in community, or we're trying to bring back. Really trying to be intentional with the team around setting boundaries and really, making sure that we're being aware of capacity and supporting our team so that they can be successful and not feel burnt out.
Nice.
Because it was an intense 18 months. We all really worked very, very hard to keep it going. But I think we're all really proud of the work, but I do think everybody's really tired. And so we're trying to be, just protective of our capacity as we move forward.
Yeah. And you should be proud of that. It's so amazing too, because I think so a lot of times, I'm totally generalizing, but people think with arts, they're like, oh, it's okay if we set that aside so we can focus on, these other goals or tasks or education aspects. And you proved that, no, look, we need this. We need this for so many reasons. I mean, mental health, thankfully, is becoming such a there's been more focus on it, right? So, I mean, look at all that could come from being part of the arts, and just, we could go on, that could be a whole other episode in of itself, right? But there's so much to that. And your team proved that, look, we're going to make sure that we're still helping our community because it is needed. So thank you for doing so much, even if it was stretched a little too much.
Well, and the organization needs our community too. So, it's really important to the long-term health and growth of our organization and the industry, right? To be really intentional about our focus. And so it was great to be able to be in support and in community with our partners, but also we really have benefited and grown and stretched and learned from those relationships, probably more so even, key and important, I think, to our work.
Oh, fantastic. So Jen, I wasn't even going to ask this next question because I feel like you covered it so well, but I'm still going to ask because I feel like you could even add on. What are there any examples of goodness that you'd like to share? I like to call them good news moments. I feel like that whole last question about what you've been doing has really answered that too, but maybe there is a certain person you've worked with that has talked to you about what Education at Roundabout has done for them, or fill in the blank there.
Sure. Well, I will say that when I think about what really sort of drives me and what keeps me really excited and engaged in our work, it's so rooted in relationship, with the individual folks that we are connected with, both through a partnership level, right? You might be working with we have a great partnership with the library, the New York Public Library, and we have great partnerships with teachers and students and schools. But to me, the individual relationships was what is most exciting. And, just this year, one of my sort of full circle moments has been so many of our alum from our programs working at Roundabout and that our colleagues. Of course, through our career training programs, we always love when our former interns and apprentices get hired, and that happens quite a bit, and it's such a joy. But seeing students that were some of our partner school students 5-10 years ago now working as teaching artists for us, seeing fellows who are part of our technical theater training program working on the wardrobe crew for our Broadway production of Caroline or Change. Those moments are so joyful for me and so exciting for me and feel like really good news moments, because that's why we're doing it, right? We're trying to sort of break down the barriers of access that have been traditionally very strongly held, so that folks maybe, can't access careers if they were interested in joining these careers, or even just exposure to theater as a young person in their high schools or in their middle schools, and then getting excited about it and wanting to see a pathway towards a career and really creating those pathways or clearing the way is something that I'm really passionate about. And so seeing that happen is just the best part of my job. And I have to try really hard not to be like a cheesy mom, and be like, oh, you're working backstage. Hi, and back and like, cool, they're working, they're adults, they're incredible artists. I don't want to blow their incredible. So I think that's our that's the best part of my work, and that's what makes me motivated.
I can only imagine, because just from one summer with some of the education programs, I can just think of so many moments of just being so excited and proud of these kids, and you have 16 years worth. Oh my gosh.
Such a joy, to have young people that I've been so inspired by and learned so much from, to be now my colleagues, and I get to learn with them every day, and to see them so successful and excited and in careers where they feel really excited and fulfilled. That to me is huge. So.
Oh, so wonderful. Hey, Jen, I have one more question for you. Is there any quote or mantra you find yourself saying to yourself or to your employees or the kids you work with?
Something that I believe, and it's not my own words, I learned it through a racial equity training years and years ago, but it was that culture shifts before policy. And so I do believe that the work that we're doing has the ability, I think that theater, our medium, has the ability to really shift people's hearts and minds. And what's so great about the medium is that it's an opportunity for you to, as an audience member, to learn about somebody who might have a totally different lived experience than you. And what we try to do is create opportunities to even deepen that engagement and think even more critically about that. And I do believe that if that culture and theater has a role in shaping and changing the society norms that we want to shift and see, right? The changes to make our world a more equitable, inclusive space and place for everybody, for all people. And so I really believe that culture shifts before policy, so we can really help move this world forward by the art that we're putting on stages, by the programming that we're helping to create, and to deepen the engagement around that art. And so that's kind of one of my core tenets and things that I come back to when it gets busy and overwhelming and it feels like it's a lot. I just kind of remember that we're helping, to make those shifts. And even though they might be small, little incremental, tiny movements on the dial, it's still, those small wins can add up to really big shifts. And so that's one thing that I think about a lot, I think, I would say.
That is such a fantastic way to end, Jen. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat. And I know that, I feel so inspired by you. I know so many others will. And also I encourage people too, you may have seen a Broadway show that you didn't realize was Roundabout too. Yeah. So take a look through their website and you could see that so many of the shows here. I know I have tickets for Caroline or Change next month, getting ready to see that. And Jen, where can they follow you in Roundabout?
Sure. So please check out our website, roundabouttheater.org/education. That's one way you can learn about our education and community partnership programs. You can follow us on social media, on Facebook and Instagram. Education has our own Instagram account, so you can check out Education at Roundabout on Instagram, and you can follow some of the more specifically education stories if you want to learn about our work as well. So I encourage you to check out that work and all just the great work that's happening throughout the city, not just at Roundabout, but the arts education ecosystem is so rich and incredible. And there's incredible work happening at small and large organizations all over the city, really trying to move the dial to make sure that young people and really all people have access to arts and culture, and that they have, that it's really an important part of everybody's life, And so I hope that you can take a look at all the work that's happening, not just the work at Roundabout, but just in the sector at large.
Thanks so much for listening to Be the Good with Kate Chericello. Whether you're listening on YouTube or via podcast, it would mean the world if you liked, subscribed, and or left a review. You heard about the good? Now go out and be the good in your life this week. If you have stories of good news that need to be shared, please send me a message. Thanks again, and have a great week.